Jagrut, Jai Masters. It's funny, lately we're talking directly about things that I don't like to talk about, like God. We had a talk yesterday about God and your relationship to God, but very different than what others teach you about God, what others believe in God. What is fascinating is how close science is getting to God. God, as the great masters defined it, God as the enlightened ones, the avatars, Christ, everybody. The God as in truth, Genesis discusses, and the ancient Upanishads, how they talk about the creation of the universe. Just, it's all coming so close, but the mind can't see it. So, let's spend a moment. In the ancient scriptures, they talk about God as Shakti. Shakti, energy, the primal force. And they say that in the beginning was the vibration, Om. They call it a vritti, a vibration, just a vibration of energy, that created creation. That when there was no vibration, it was unmanifest. That's how they talk in the ancient scriptures. Brahma is unmanifest. What does that mean? It means there's only God and there's no creation. God did not create creation. But God exists everywhere. But is the Buddhists call it the void, the empty. Buddhists do it in terms of mind, which is fine. Because thoughts in the mind are vrittis. They are vibrations in the mental plane. And when it becomes quiet, then you're beyond creation. Even Ramakrishna, who is not a Buddhist, said that the purified mind is no different than the self. The self being the consciousness that's within you, but is really the whole universe. And the purified mind, meaning the mind that has no vrittis, no vibrations, it's not creating thoughts, it's empty mind, is no different than that which is looking at it. All right? If you're staring at nothing, you're just the staring one. Nothing's distracting you. There's no form. If there's no object of consciousness, there is only consciousness. There's nothing distracting consciousness, pulling it into an object. That's very, very deep. The Third Zen Patriarch, was one of the deepest writings on faith mind, at some point gets into a discussion like that. That if an object doesn't exist, the subject doesn't exist. The fact that you are pulling your consciousness down to an object means you are aware of object. You've created object. If there is no object, consciousness isn't drawn out of its seat of consciousness. It therefore remains centered within its universal consciousness. So these are the deepest teachings. I don't expect you to be interested or understand them all, but the Buddhists teach that really the ancient Genesis and the Kabbalah, the deep, deep teachings and the Kabbalah are getting back to creation like that. And the Hindu scriptures are very, very clear about the unmanifest and the manifest. And the manifestation takes place with the first vibration. In other words, there was nothing. There was just empty consciousness, just God, no creation. And then a vibration took place. And out of that vibration, all of creation got created. Okay, so fine. What does the Bible say? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. That Word is the vibration. Right? They say it's Amen. Well, it's Om or Amen. The point is, it's the primal vibration from which creation got created. So that sounds mystical, that sounds religious, but let's look what science says. All right? And again, I don't expect you to have tremendous interest in this stuff, but you should at least have a slight comprehension of what the scientists have found. They've spent, centuries and centuries studying everything, all the way back to the Greeks and all the way back, and then all the way up to Einstein and all the way up to quantum physics and everything. The great machines, they have these tremendous cyclotrons out there in Switzerland, miles and miles underground, where they're bombarding particles to try to find out what is this made out of. They used to say it was made out of the elements. Well, that's just because that's all we see. That's what our eyes see. All right? Then they went deeper. And they said, well, it's made out of atoms. Well, how'd they figure that out? Well, they worked with it, they did math, they studied combinations in chemistry and in physics, and they got electron microscopes, they had all kinds of stuff that discovered that there are these particles called atoms, which have a nucleus in between that have neutrons and protons in them. You all know this. You study this. It's all wrong, by the way. All right? It's not wrong. It's true that there's earth, water, fire, air, and whatever ether is, right? The rest, let's say, vacuum, all right? It's true, but it's not true that those are the primal forces. Fire, earth, air, they're all made of atoms. So then they went deeper, and they found that there's a nucleus with neutrons and protons in it, and then there's the electrons spinning around it, orbiting around it, and that makes up an atom. And depending on what the rings of the electrons and all that stuff, covalent and different kind of bonds, they bond together and they make molecules, and here you are. That's what you're looking at. It's all made out of atoms. Well, quantum physics went much, much deeper. It's very beautiful. And you're really getting down to where the spiritual teachings, the deep spiritual teachings of fundamental creation are what they're getting close to. Why? Because they say, no, an electron is not a thing. A nucleus is not made out of particles that are neutrons and protons. All of it are fields of energy. They're just fields of energy, vibrating at different rates. And the fields have different properties, therefore they tend to behave certain ways. That's as close as I'll get to quantum physics, okay? But that's what they're saying. It's not a particle, it's a field. There's not an electron orbiting around a nucleus. There's fields of energy and behavior patterns based on the type of field and this, that, and the other thing that make it so that that field will manifest in different places at different times that tends to behave so that it can bond other fields together, et cetera, et cetera. And even the nucleus, neutrons and protons are not things. They're made out of quarks. 2 up quarks and a down quark make a proton, and 2 down quarks and an up. Well, what's a quark? A field of energy. It all comes down to energy. The behavior patterns of energy when it interacts with other energy. There's like magnetism. It just creates a force. Well, what is energy? You're not going to find a definition of energy. Understand that? Energy is the primal force. Quantum physics gets into, what does quantum mean? That waves, you're used to seeing waves be even, right? They say, no. They act in packets. There can be energy of this size packet, let's say lower, and then it skips a little, like it goes to 1 to 3, but it skips 4 and goes to 5 to 7, so it makes packets of a certain size, and those packets interact with other packets, and that's where you start to see them as particles. That's why they say light can be a wave or a particle. It's both. It's a wave behaving as a particle. So the main point, I want to get to it, it's nice that you should know something about it, because this is what they've gotten down to. And they're studying all this, and it's amazing that they get down to that. And they've actually seen a quark. They bombarded protons together, and they broke up, and for a billionth of a nanosecond, they can see what they're made out of. It's unbelievable where we've gotten. But where we're getting is to what the yogis wrote about thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And we could talk about how that's possible, because they said it was all energy. It's all Shakti. Shakti is energy. And that the manifestation from the unmanifest to the manifest was a vibration. And when the vibration took place, it all came out of that. Well, okay. I hope you can see the connections, all right? So they're down to, I think it's just beautiful, they're down to it's all energy. It's just energy. That's what it is. It's energy interacting. And energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And energy is basically that which is. That's there. All right? And energy moves. It's just moving vibrations. And it creates forces. Even the forces of magnetism, they say gravity, we haven't proved it yet, but magnetism, gravity, strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force are vibrations. They're vibrations of fields. They're fields of energy. It's all energy. That's what's down there. It's all energy. Well, what is energy? Now, here's the difference. Yogis did not study from the outside. How would the yogis know it was all energy? How would they write such a thing? That God is Shakti. God is just pure energy. And the manifestation is the energy manifesting its form. Well, that's exactly what quantum physics is saying. It did get created out of energy. E equals mc squared. All right, that's Einstein. They measured the amount of energy that it took to make matter of any particular matter, right? It happens to be, but C, the speed of light, the square of the speed of light times the amount of mass will let you figure out how much energy got captured and behaved as a particle and will be released if you break it up, which is, of course, what the atomic bomb is. There. But I want to tie it in to what the yogis wrote about in the ancient scriptures and all their science and so on. How would they know such a thing? They don't have microscopes, they don't have electrons, they don't have nothing. They're nothing. Why? Because you go the next step, which perhaps science will never go. All right? They certainly act like they won't. Which is, what's energy made out of? And the yogis said, consciousness. Energy is not the most primal force. Consciousness is the most primal thing in the universe. Everything is made out of consciousness. All right? Now that lets you know how they knew that. Why? Because you're conscious. You can't know physics. How would you know quantum physics? You don't know math. You don't know any of that kind of stuff, right? But you are conscious. And therefore it is possible that if your consciousness stops being distracted by the creations of your mind and your emotions, all of which are also vibrations, they're just vibrations creating forms. If your consciousness ceases to be distracted by those, great yogis ended up in the center source of where consciousness comes from. Whose consciousness? All of yours come from the same place. Just like light. If light is all over the place, but it shines on an object, it's the same light illuminating all the objects. But if you focus on the object, you only see the light shining on that object. Now, the example I use, which I'm not sure anybody gets it, but I keep using it, is during the day, the sun is shining. Where? Everywhere. It's falling everywhere, isn't it? Okay? Even everywhere. Take some magnifying glasses and hold them anywhere you want, and then look down what it looks like. It comes to a focal point, doesn't it? Well, that's what you guys are. The focal point of the light. But you didn't need a magnifying glass. You did it with your will. You wanted to pay attention to your thoughts. You wanted to pay attention to your emotions. You wanted to pay attention to what's coming through your senses, not his senses, your senses. Therefore, you focused your consciousness the same as a magnifying glass focuses the light down to a point that's so focal that it's individualized. You ever hear of non-dualistic teachings? That's the light before you hold the magnifying glass in front of it. It's non-dual, isn't it? It's one. But you made it dual, didn't you? Because you're focused on each of your own minds and emotions and senses. Like, to me, that's like mind-blowing to understand that's all you all are, is the light willfully focusing on you. But each of you. And you say, well, how can the same light focus on each of you? The same way as a magnifying glass can be held in front of the sun 7 billion times under 7 billion points of light. It's because it's focusing the same light. So the same consciousness is being focused down to your consciousness. Who's doing it? You're doing it. You're the one who chose to look at your thoughts. Now you can't not. You're the one who chose to get caught up in your emotions. Now you can't not. You're the one who cares more about what you see through your senses than anybody else. You care about what's happening to your body and what's in front of you and what color the wall is. How about everyone else's wall? Who cares? It's my wall, my kitchen. You did that. So you acted like the magnifying glass to focus God consciousness, universal consciousness, non-dualistic consciousness, without form, down to your witness. And what you did with your witness consciousness, which is the one who's watching, you are watching your thoughts. You are aware of your thoughts, aren't you? Who's aware? That focal point of consciousness. As tiny as it is, it's only focused on you. Where it comes from is not tiny, is it? Should you stop staring at you, which is what the great ones did. That's why they went into caves. That's why they spent days and hours meditating to us, all right? With no distractions. You don't have to do that. Okay, no, I'm serious. That's not your path. But thousands and thousands of years ago, the great rishis, they did that. Therefore, there were no distractions, and they managed to release the addiction that point of consciousness had on that manifestation of form that represented their thoughts, their emotions, and body. And what happened to them? The same thing happened to every single one of them, which is they got pulled back into the oneness. What did Christ say? My Father and I are one. My Father and I are one. That's what every great master, great enlightened master said. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahma. I am Shiva. I am He. Right? That's what the great mantras are. In other words, it's not them that were that. You are that. But we are addicted to staring at us. So you can see that that's what would happen if you focus the sunlight down to a point. It would only know about the point that it was looking at. And if you move the magnifying glass around, it would be seeing different points it's shining on, but it's still just a little point that out of the whole thing. That's the fall from the garden. You fell from the universal down to that thing. So how does that relate to how they knew that it was all made of form? Because they were it. They merged with God. They merged with themselves. They say they merged with God as if they were separate. You're not separate from God. You're just staring away from Him. If I stare at a knot in the wall, potentially I can still see the room, but not if I'm staring at that knot in the wall. So if I sit there and say, oh, I left the knot and came back to me. No, you never left you. You just projected your consciousness and focused it on that tiny little spot. So I always say, don't go back to God. Stop leaving. You're already there. You're just busy staring here, right? Well, the great ones, which is why we have such respect for, that's what to us, what a guru or a Satguru or a master represents, is one who reached the highest state. There are lots of gurus running around that call themselves gurus. They have not reached the highest state, all right? But there are masters. They asked Meher Baba. Meher Baba is considered an avatar, which is as high as they come, fully merged. They asked him, Baba, who are you? They could feel his energy, see how great he was. Who are you? You know what he said? I was in the beginning, before all else was created. I will be in the end, after all else falls away. There was never a time I was not, and there will never be a time that I am not. In other words, before it manifested, consciousness is conscious. You are that also. I know it's impossible to comprehend because we're so far away, because we're lost in ourselves. But Yogananda taught two states that yogis teach, states of samadhi, states of moving away from yourself. And one is sabhikalpa, in which you've lost your addiction to yourself so that your consciousness is now experiencing all of form, all of galaxies, the whole universe. You're it. You are it. Yogananda said when he first entered that state, his body was all the galaxies. And he was expanding at the speed of light out the edges in every single direction. But that's not the highest state. That's sabhikalpa samadhi. There's another state called nirvikalpa samadhi. And that's called the formless state. Well, we've kind of discussed that, haven't we? Energy, before it vibrates or creates anything, before there's that primal vibration where even there are wavelets, there's just being. They go there. There are beings that have gone there. It's almost incomprehensible. There are beings who have entered that state and come back. And there are beings, that's why I have, people say, why does it make such respect for the gurus? Because that's what I mean by a guru, by the way. There's lots of people running around, but what the word guru means to me is that, the highest state. It's like there are beings that enter that state at will and come back at will. And guess what? You are that. You are that great. Christ didn't say, I am great and you're not. He said, that which I do, you should do these and even greater things. As I sit by the throne, a state of consciousness, state of being, as I sit by the throne of my Father, so you shall sit by my throne. And things that I do, you should do these and even greater things. Did you know he said that? All right, so now the yogis, the great ones, went to that state, went to a nirvikalpa state where there's nothing. But when you go to the top of a mountain, if you're always in the valley, you can't see what's going on everywhere. But if you go to the top of the mountain, you can see everything, right? If you go into a state like that and come back, you're experiencing creation. You're redoing how creation got created. Meditation does that. If you go deep enough in meditation, that's what you learn about mind. If you go into a state of no mind, where it's quiet, and you come back, you'll watch it all come back. All right, and eventually you'll say, what's going on there? I like it up here better. And you'll start to watch why it's doing that. So the great ones went into nirvikalpa, into the formless state, and came back and saw how creation got created, saw the primal vibration, which they said was Om, all right, but it's a vibration. The fact is they say it's a vibration. In the beginning was the word, there's a vibration. And now just give me the vibration, and now give me science. Because they are telling you it's all made of fields of vibration. Pretty close, isn't it? Whether they ever get back to consciousness, I don't understand how they can, because they're looking outside, their consciousness is looking outside to see what's going on. How can they see unless they go in? Maybe they will. Maybe it'll drive them inside. But the net result, I wanted you to see that. That's what I wanted to share, right? Do you see how close that is? That the yogis went to that state, came back, and sat there and said it's all about a vibration. The infinite being vibrated, and out of that vibration everything got created. Well, I would say how can that happen? How can a vibration make a human being? How can a vibration make a mountain? Science will show it to you. Right now, today, quantum physics will show you. Give me fields of vibration, no form, fields of vibration, and they will behave periodically as particles, subatomic particles, and I will tell you how they all put themselves together based on their spin and their color, quarks and bosons and leptons. The next thing you know, you got electrons and neutrons and protons, which put together in the covalent bonds, and oh my God, and they'll build you a mountain, and it's still unmanifest. Well, they don't see it as unmanifest. It's still just vibration of energy. Do you understand? It doesn't stop being vibration of energy. Okay? If I take H2O molecules, it's water, okay? Well, let's say it's really hot. The water's really hot. It becomes steam, doesn't it? Vapor. You can't even see it. There's vapor. Now, I take the same exact vapor, the same exact molecules, and I cool it down a little bit. It becomes water. I cool it down further. It becomes ice. Well, where did ice come from? It didn't ever change its nature, did it? It stayed H2O molecules. It's the same thing with these quantum vibrations, the fields. They stay the fields, but you perceive them as the forms that they put together. So God stays God. It's not like God left. All right? It's really beautiful. I'm not a Bible reader. I read the Bible once in 1971, and it says, not a hair moves on your head that God doesn't know. Not a sparrow falls from the tree. Because God is the tree, God is the sparrow, God is the fall. There's not a single place that God is not, because God is everything. Everything you see is God. Every single thing you see. There is no man, there is no woman, there's no this, there's no that, anything like that. And I don't have to go to God to say that. All right? I want you to go to the periodic table and show me which one of those elements is male and female. And yet every single scientist will tell you that every single cell in your body is made of those atoms. Everything's made of those atoms. So there is no male or female. It's as it comes up, it looks like ice. And we interact with it differently than we do steam and then we do water. You don't swim in ice. Okay? And I'm like, wow, it's just... And we can talk about how it gets there, but I just wanted to tie that together. How close and how consistent what science has found from what the original teachings were from thousands of years ago in the yoga tradition. That's pretty unbelievable, isn't it? Okay? All right. So now the question is, where is God? All right? Well, I just told you where is God. And if you want to understand and appreciate and get closer to God, you have to get further away from you. Because you, by focusing yourself away from God, what do you mean? You're not focused on God, you're focused on your thoughts and your emotions. That which notices your thoughts is closer to God than any thought about God. Consciousness is the closest you're going to get. And then if you follow it back to its source, you're with God. So God is always there, isn't it? If your thought is, I don't believe in God, I don't care about God, I don't even like God, you who notice that is God watching you say that. You ain't getting away from it. It doesn't make any difference. Okay? So the problem is not how do you find God, is how do you not find yourself? And how did Christ... I love bringing Christ into the conversation. What did he say about this, how to find God? You must die to be reborn. What does that mean? You must die of the personal self. You have to stop staring at yourself, and then you will know who you are. You know what that is. So all the teachings are just exactly the same, which is why they sit there and say that an ego is distant from God and pride is his sin. Those are the tremendously personal things. What is lust? What is pride? What is greed? They're staring at you serious, aren't they? It's like, it's okay to want money a little bit, but not too much. It becomes a sin. No, the very fact that you're thinking about money, who's watching you think about money? God. Then you're not thinking about God. You're turning yourself away from God to think about money. There's nothing wrong with money. It's just an object in the universe that got created from God's creation. Right? But if you get involved in it, you're not going to be involved in God. That's all. It's not a sin. It's not wrong. Do you understand that? It's just the further you go down into you and what you want and what you like and what you believe and what you hope for and what you dream and what your values are and what your beliefs are and what your concepts and your view, the more you do that, the further you went from God. Because your consciousness that's looking at those things is God. The source is God consciousness. But you're projecting yourself away from that. That's a good foundation for a talk, isn't it? Now you understand your relationship to God? That thou art. You are that. Also, we talked about God unmanifest. What did God tell Moses in front of the burning bush when he told Moses to go down and tell the Pharaoh to let my children go? And he said, they got all kinds of gods. The Egyptians had lots of gods. Who should I say sent me? What's your name? What's the name of this God? I am that I am. That is so beautiful. I am that I am. I am that which is. Nothing was before me. You can't separate me from anything. I just am that I am. You see, it's all saying the same thing, isn't it? When Moses went up to the mountain, he said to God, I want to see you. Moses was very sincere. He believed in God. He followed everything. And he said, I want to see you. Who knows? What did God say to him? He said, you can't see me and still live. What you can do is hide in this crevice in the rock, and I'll walk by you, and you can see my shadow. That you can do while you're still, so to speak, human, alive. But should you see me, it means to merge with me, and you die to be reborn. Right? But the yogis learned how to do it and come back. That's where so did Christ. It's pretty neat stuff, isn't it? But what's neat about it is this is not philosophy. This is who you are. You are that. Tat twamasi. That thou art. And look what you're doing. Running around like oh my God. You are literally the creator of the universe. Then your ego gets big. No. That part of you is not the creator of the universe, all right? That's just your little individual self that fell from the garden. Self-knowledge. You know what happened? The tree of self-knowledge. You wanted to know about yourself. Adam hid from God. How do you hide from God? You see yourself as separate. You stop looking up and you look down. I always tell the story. That fig leaf thing is very big to me. Guy says, well, where are you? Here I am. I'm hiding. He stands up and says, what the heck's around your waist? I said, a fig leaf. I put fig leaves on trees. What's it doing around your waist? The next line in that conversation is so deep. He said, I was naked. So is every single animal that ever walked the face of the earth. And they didn't run around with fig leaves on. What do you mean I was naked? It means I started identifying myself as this body instead of identifying myself as the consciousness that created the universe and is looking down at this body as well as every other one. And because I identify with my body, I have self-consciousness and embarrassment and shame and every other thing that comes along with it. That is the fall from the garden. And so basically, we have the point where consciousness is the creator of the universe. And then it looks down into its universe. That was the intention. That was why people say, why would God is everything? Why would he create anything? For the same reason an artist puts paint on a canvas, to express the aspects of God's being. Well, God's rather big, says, or all the aspects of God's being. You want to see what God is? Open your eyes. No, but there's more. Open your eyes. But there's mean people. Open your eyes. But there's saints. Open your eyes. there's everything. God is everything. Therefore, there's everything. That's the yin and yang. Those are the great, deep Eastern teachings. Everything has to be. Why? Because God is everything. Therefore, everything manifests. But it's meant to be a play. It's meant to be a video game. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be exciting. All right? The entire Bhagavad Gita takes place on a battlefield. The whole thing's on a battlefield. So the conversation takes place in the middle of a battle. A battle's going to start. And God, Krishna is the Godhead, is God talking to a very spiritual, his disciple, spiritual son, Arjuna. But what's he telling him? Why it's not okay to not fight this battle. What? It's a phenomenally deep. It just goes past humanness. It goes past. It talks from God's point of view, not humans. Which is basically, hey, I created the universe. It's my party. I can play if I want to. Just do your dharma. Do your job. You're a warrior. You were trained as a warrior. We're here. There's battles taking place. You didn't ask for it. What's greater for somebody who's trained as a warrior and that a battle show up that they didn't ask for? Like there's no karma involved. There's no desire. There's no anything like that. And this is the dance. This is the play. And Arjuna is down there and he says, I'm not going to fight this battle. If somebody gets killed and their family falls into disrepute and the children don't have a family and this and that and all kinds of things happen and on both sides of this battle are my cousins and my friends and my gurus. No, I'm not doing it. And the whole first chapter of the Gita is so beautiful. As he kneels down in the back of the chariot, Krishna's driving the chariot, in the middle of the battlefield, they're just looking over the battle. He drops his bow and kneeling on his knee, he says, I will not fight. That's the despair of Arjuna. That's the first chapter. The entire rest of the Gita are the deepest teachings you will ever read as to why he's supposed to fight this battle and why it's dharmic and why it's holy, etc., etc. All right? In the same way, what's closest to that in our tradition? Is Christ in the garden before he's arrested and he sees this whole thing that's going to happen. In this case, happened to him, and the other was happened to the whole society. All right? And he sits there and says, oh, that does not look like fun. He's psychic. He sees the whole thing. And he says, may I pass this cup? I will not fight. It's the same thing. All right? Except he didn't need the entire Bhagavad Gita to tell him why he should. The moment he said, may I pass this cup? He said, not my will, but thy will be done. The entire rest of Bhagavad Gita is Krishna teaching Arjuna that he should take the attitude, not my will, but thy will be done. This is not your world. I am the creator of the creation, and this is what's been created, and you should put your whole heart and soul into serving me. It's the exact teaching. That's karma yoga. Isn't it neat that it all is the same? So now the question is, all right, so what is God? God is consciousness, and the vibration within the consciousness is what we are experiencing as energy, the energy of creation. That vritti, that original om, that original vibration. So let's get an idea of how much. Have you ever felt you have no energy? Ever felt low on energy? I wish I had more energy. Ever been around somebody who has a lot of energy? Let's talk about God's energy, all right? So I read today that they found the brightest object that they ever found in the universe. It's a quasar in a galaxy that is at least 12 billion light years away. Okay, that object is 400 billion times the mass of the sun. One object in the center of one galaxy, and it is 500 trillion times brighter than the sun. Brighter means energy. That's how much energy it's giving off. That's one quasar in the middle of one galaxy. There are 2 trillion galaxies. Most of the larger ones have black holes. They don't all have things that bright. But that galaxy has billions of stars. And it says that the amount of light coming off that quasar, the amount of energy, light is energy. The amount of energy emanating off of that, 500 trillion times the sun, is brighter than all the 300 billion stars in the galaxy put together. But that means there's that plus the 300 billion, and that's one galaxy. How much energy is God? That's you. That's how much energy you have. There, now you get an idea of God. That whole energy field of creation, which all became manifest from one universal consciousness that always was there in the beginning and will always be there in the end, and just vibrated, and the amount of energy it created, I just hope gave you some idea of that's the creator, isn't it? That's the creator of the universe. That's your God, and you are one with that. You go far enough back. Now, the difference being, and Master said that, Yogananda said that, said, the energy that you are, you can't bring into this body. It would blow up in a billionth of a second. The most you can do is, I have Shakti. Give me a break. Are you kidding me? How little energy that is compared to what we're talking about? Is it not even a driplet out of the ocean? It's not a drop out of the ocean. That's what you're able to handle coming through your body. So a being who's purified the channels, who purified their system, and stepped back more. Now we're getting into, why don't you experience yourself as God? Because your consciousness is busy experiencing yourself as you. You're busy staring at you. Whatever you stare at, that's what you're conscious of. And you know darn well you stare at you. Don't worry about it. I'm not calling it egotistical. Everybody is egotistical. It's just a question of degrees, and the degrees aren't as big as you think they are compared to not being egotistical at all, right? Letting go of yourself, not identifying with yourself. So basically, what it's at is, are you willing to let go of yourself? Because as you let go of yourself, the channel gets clearer and the Shakti flows in naturally, and it never goes away. I want it to be your state of being. That's your state of consciousness, that this amount of energy is flowing through me all the time, and I'm letting go more because it's beautiful. And as you let go, then you're not staring at yourself as much. Why? Because the energy up higher is more beautiful than the things where you get your energy now. You have to work for it, and then make sure your relationships work, and make sure you have the money and can pay your bills because you enjoyed your vacation. You're busy. When you fall from the garden, it says you must work by the sweat of your brow. That's what you're doing, to pay your bills, keep your relationships together, have people respect you, get a lot of likes on Facebook. You have work to do. As you let go of yourself, the energy that you want, it's all just energy. The joy of a vacation, the joy of a relationship, the intimacy, anything, all of it. People respecting you, saying nice things about you, they just create energy. You feel more energy because you're open. As you go deeper inside and don't stare at yourself, that energy's there all the time. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to cause yourself to be open despite your garbage in order to feel the energy. You are the energy, and you start to relate to that. Okay? And the deeper you go, in other words, the more you let go of yourself, you're coming back into that vortex. I told you where it goes. It's hard to think about how big it really is. All right? You're moving 1 nanometer, and you're saying, boy, have I gotten high. I feel some Shakti. I just told you what high was. You hear me? Good. I always wanted to talk to you like this. All right? You might as well get some idea what's really going on. Instead of what they sell you, I'm only human. You are not. You are the creator of the universe. You're all that energy is talked about, staring at your humanness. That's what you are. You are the greatest thing that ever walked the face of the earth. Period. Nothing's greater than you. Other than what you're staring at, there's a lot that's greater than that. Okay, you know it. All right? So basically, as you let go, you feel the energy, and therefore your conscience wants to stay there, and it doesn't pay as much attention to the stupid little human things. You don't renounce them. They fall off. And falling off doesn't mean you don't get married. You get married the same as Arjuna fought the battle. It could have been taking place in a marriage counselor's room instead of on a battlefield. It doesn't matter. What it boils down to is you're not doing it because you need it. That was the whole thing. It's a battle that appears for a warrior who's trained as a warrior that doesn't need it, didn't ask for it, doesn't want it. It's pure. It's dharmic. You're just doing God's will. Well, it's the same thing with all these other things. So as you get more joy and you feel more wholeness within yourself, the needs fall off. But that doesn't mean you don't interact with the world. God created heavens and earth to play. You all of a sudden become someone who's in harmony. That, like I said, the Gita does not, you think yoga is the deepest thing with the highest states. Krishna did not teach Arjuna to not fight. He did not teach Arjuna not to interact with the world. Be in the world and not of it. Not thy will, but my will. All right, just let go completely and let me have my fun. I created the thing. Right? That's why I don't understand how you can even live with the thought that you're doing something. There's 25 trillion cells that make up your body. What did you do to make those? So you got 25 trillion cells in there. Your liver, your heart. What do you do to make your heart beat? What do you do to make the lungs go in and out? What do you do to make your liver work? What do you do to make your brain cells work? What do you do? Nothing. Nothing. If they didn't do it, forget it. But you just take it all for granted. What did you do to make air so you can breathe? What did you do to make the ground solid so you can walk on it? What did you do to create the sun and have it just the right distance away from the planet so you can grow food that you can eat? What did you do to make your digestion? What did you do? What did you do? What did you do? I don't care if you call it evolution, that's fine. What did you do? Nothing. You do nothing. All the things that it takes for you to interact, you do 0.00000000001 and smaller than that. You're working on a business. What'd you do to build the building? What'd you do to make the boss? What'd you do to make the business? What'd you do to run the accounting? What'd you do? It doesn't exist without all that stuff. And you think I'm the doer. You are not the doer. You're the experiencer of this tremendous thing called life that was here before you got here. And it will be here after you leave. And it's going on everywhere where you're not. Right? Is it not true that it's going on everywhere you're not all by itself? Whoa. And I don't just mean everywhere on earth. Everywhere. And you think you're the doer. And that's why you have tension and anxiety and fears. Because you're in charge. Don't you think you're in charge? I'm in charge of what? It's all already made. And it's happening everywhere. Like, but to me, well, share what I look at it, right? If it's going on everywhere, let's start with the planet Earth. If every single spot on the planet Earth there's something going on, and I know darn well I didn't make it, I don't know about it, I'm not doing it, I have nothing to do with it, then the spot I'm in is no different than those spots. And if I pick myself up and put myself in that spot, then all of a sudden that's the one I'm doing? That's the craziest thing I ever heard of. If it's going on by itself, so is this. It's just almost because I stepped into it. I made it. Did that one make sense to you? That if every other spot is going on by itself, so is this one? Just because I happen to be seeing this one? That's how big ego is. I see it, I did it. If I see it, I own it. Move me to that spot. Move you out of your house to the restaurant. I own it. That shouldn't be going on. That shouldn't be smoking. That shouldn't be the special. That waiter shouldn't have done that. Go home. Baby shouldn't have done that. Baby shouldn't have. It was going on before you got there. It's not true that just because your conscience sees it, it made it. Do you get it? Or it's hard to get, isn't it? No, it's not hard to get. It's not hard to get. It's so obvious, it's ridiculous. And I asked you the other day, which one of you honestly believe that things should be the way you want? Don't raise your hands all at once. Do you think that all those moments you don't know about should be the way you want? You couldn't care less. So somehow, because you're conscious of it, it's you own it, and it's supposed to be the way you want. But two of you are standing next to each other. She sees the same thing you do. It's not the way she wants. You see the same thing she does. It's not the way you want, but you don't agree how you want it. How's this going to work? How's this going to work? We all want different things, don't we? And we all think it's supposed to be the way we want. Wow. I wonder why there's war. I wonder why there's divorces. I wonder why there's so much disharmony. I wonder, does it make sense to you now? Because everybody thinks the moment's supposed to be the way they want. So who wins? God. That's what the Buddhists mean by flowers are red, water's blue, grass is green. Those are the only teachings you need. You did not make the flower red, you did not make the water blue, and you did not make the grass green. Life did. Reality did. Creation did. You start off by saying, who do I think I am? I'm not the creator of the universe. But you act like it, don't you? You act like you're supposed to be. And they teach you. Attract everything the way you want it to be. Everybody has the way they want. Who wins? And that's the cause of all disharmony on the planet Earth. Isn't it? Okay? Imagine all the people living life in peace. Not what everybody has their own way they want it to be. It ain't happening, is it? But yet, your mind does it every single time. It should be the way. Why did you say it? How could you say that? How could you say that? I would never say something like that. Of course you wouldn't. The sum of your experiences wouldn't have said that. But the sum of his experiences did say that. So how could he say that? Study psychology. Study his past. Study what happened to him yesterday. Study what he ate this morning. Are you willing to let go of yourself? That's what all these talks are saying. You're so married in yourself that maybe you can't even understand what I'm saying. At some point, you step back and you say, who do I think I am? God? Yes, you think you're God. Well, you are God, but not at that level. That what you're looking at is not God. This I assure you, right? But the one who's looking is God. Okay? And you're just lost in yourself, aren't you? If you think that things should be the way you want, you're lost in yourself. Why is it raining on my birthday? Oh my God, there you go again. Why did it have to rain today? Well, go study meteorology, will you? And you're not going to find your birth date at any point in that book. But we still do it, don't we? That's ego. It's not just these people that are boisterous with big old egos. That's ego. That you think it's you. You look at it all through the veil of you. And that's how it should be. A great one does not do that. They die to be reborn at that level. And they look at it from the center of consciousness and realize everybody else is the same as me. It's the same consciousness, but it's looking at something different. And we've all had different experiences. Some people much worse and whatever, right? Even Yogananda, enlightened being, used to say, but by God's grace, there goes myself. That's how he looked at wrong in this world. If I had not been brought up by my mother and my tradition and this and that, had food to eat and so on, how do I know how I'd be? How dare you judge somebody else? And Christ is the same way. Let you who is without sin throw the first stone. Wake up. These are the deep traditions. They're about stepping out of yourself enough to realize we're all in here, but we're lost in the stuff that the psyche built over the course of our lives. All right? But again, I pointed out to you who you really are. Next time you feel low on energy, just remember who you are. 500 trillion times the brightness of the sun. And it looks like you can't even see it. One star in the spattered sky. And that's what it really is. And they're everywhere. And that's who you are. But you've limited yourself. You've limited yourself to stare down at this thing. And the trouble is, if you don't get what it wants, you're not comfortable. You say that, yeah, but if I don't get what I want, I'm not comfortable. If I get what I want, I'm comfortable. A heroin addict said that once to me once too. You know, I'm really much nicer when I get a hit. And I'm really strung out and terrible when I don't. Well, okay, fine. That's not a nice thing to talk about, is it? But it's the same thing. You're addicted to your psyche. You're addicted to the patterns that you have within your mind. All right. The beauty of it all is you're a very great being. And you're capable of returning to that state. And it's gradual by letting go of staring at yourself. The more you let go of staring at yourself, the more you let go of getting all caught up in what you want and what you don't want and what you like, what you don't like, and just start honoring and respecting the flow of life and serving it to the best of your ability. You do not interact with life. You just don't interact with it to make it be what you want. You see something happening and you feel a reaction, let go of the reaction and then see if there's something you can do to help. But how nice would it be if every single moment, instead of asking what do I want and how do I get it, you were asking how can I help this moment? How can I serve? Whoa. That's the beauty of the path. Jagrif.